The light in the Galactic Council chamber refracted through crystal panels, casting prismatic patterns across the polished floor. Ambassador Mira Voss stood with perfect posture, her dark blue uniform bearing Earth's insignia, a simplified globe encircled by laurel leaves. Outside the massive windows of the chamber, Earth's flagship, the ESV Liberty, maintained its position in orbit, its hull scarred from previous encounters. A visual reminder of humanity's tumultuous entry into galactic society. 7 years of negotiations had led to this moment. 7 years since first contact had ended in bloodshed. 7 years since Mira had watched her brother's ship explode in that initial, tragic misunderstanding. Now, as Earth's lead diplomat, she carried not only the weight of humanity's future, but also the ghost of her brother's sacrifice. "The Council recognizes Earth's Ambassador Voss," announced the towering, six-limbed moderator, its translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Mira stepped forward, flanked by Dr. Elias Kojima, Earth's chief xenobiologist, and Captain Arjun Reyes of the Expeditionary Fleet. Behind them stood Vectul, their assigned council liaison, a being of serpentine grace, whose species had been among the first to advocate for continued dialogue with humans. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," Mira began, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "I stand before you today to present the final documentation of Earth's compliance with integration protocols. Our frontier bases on Mars and Titan have been registered and open to inspection. Our research databases have been translated into standard. Our military vessels operate with transponders as required." She paused, surveying the chamber. 27 species represented, each with their own agenda. The crystalline Miranth, whose thoughts moved at speeds humans could barely comprehend. The gaseous Vorin, contained in specially designed suits that allowed them physical form. And at the center, the Zahirian delegation, whose chancellor had made no secret of his disdain for humanity's rapid technological advancement. "Earth seeks full membership," Mira continued, "with all rights and responsibilities therein. We have demonstrated our commitment to peace and cooperation since the unfortunate events of first contact." A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber at this reference. Mira forced herself not to react, though the memory of her brother's last transmission flashed through her mind. "They're not responding to standard greeting protocols. Wait. They're targeting our engines." Chancellor Kalterin of the Zahirians rose, his scaled body gleaming under the chamber lights. "The Council has reviewed Earth's petition extensively," he announced, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into the common language. "And, after careful deliberation, we have reached a decision." Mira felt Dr. Kojima tense beside her. Captain Reyes's hand moved subtly to rest on his ceremonial sidearm, a gesture of anxiety rather than threat. "Humanity," continued Kalturin, "has demonstrated remarkable adaptability and technological integration. Too remarkable, perhaps." His compound eyes narrowed. "Your species has achieved in 7 years what others required centuries to develop. You absorb and modify technologies without proper reverence for their cultural context. You expand your presence without regard for established spheres of influence." The chamber had gone deathly silent. "It is the finding of this council that humanity is fundamentally incompatible with galactic society as it currently exists." Mira stepped forward. "Chancellor, we have adhered to every—" "The vote has been tallied," Kalturin interrupted. 17 to 10. Earth's petition for membership is denied." He paused, his next words falling like stones. "Furthermore, the Council has voted to formally sever relations with Earth and its colonies. All trade, research exchange, and travel rights will be suspended in 30 cycles. Human vessels will be required to return to Sol system space or face impoundment." The chamber erupted. Captain Reyes swore under his breath. Dr. Kojima's tablet clattered to the floor. Mira stood frozen, the diplomatic mask she'd worn for 7 years, finally cracking. "This is unprecedented," she managed, her voice barely audible above the commotion. "Earth has the right to appeal under Article 7 of the—" "Article 7 applies to member species," Kelterin stated coldly. "You are not members, Ambassador Voss. You never will be." As the human delegation was escorted from the chamber, Vektul approached Mira, his elongated features expressing what seemed like genuine regret. "This was not unanimous," he whispered. "Some of us fought for you." "Not hard enough," Mira replied, the diplomat in her momentarily silenced by raw emotion. As they walked, she activated her neural implant, connecting directly to Earth Central Command. "This is Ambassador Voss. Prepare for immediate briefing. The Council has voted for complete expulsion. I repeat, complete expulsion. 30 cycles to recall all assets." In that moment, watching her team's faces transition from shock to determination, Mira made a silent vow. Humanity would not merely survive this rejection. They would forge their own path among the stars, and she would ensure that her brother's sacrifice had not been in vain. News of the expulsion spread through human settlements with the speed of quantum communication. On Mars Colony, emergency councils convened in the buried habitation domes. On Titan Research Station, scientists frantically backed up collaborative projects before their alien colleagues departed. Earth itself buzzed with a mixture of outrage, fear, and a peculiarly human response: defiance. Mira stood before the United Earth Security Council, her formal diplomatic attire exchanged for a simple gray suit. The holographic displays around the chamber showed real-time data on human assets throughout the solar system. 30 days, General Santos said, shaking his head. "They expect us to recall every ship, researcher, and merchant in 30 days. We're already implementing recall protocols," Captain Reyes reported. "The expeditionary fleet is providing escort for civilian vessels in potentially hostile territories." Mira nodded, then turned to Dr. Kojima, who was projecting a series of complex molecular structures above the central table. "The research implications are catastrophic," Kojima said, his usually calm voice strained. "We've built our recent advances on shared knowledge. The quantum communication network, the gravity manipulation systems, the medical breakthroughs, all dependent on continued access to Council databases. Then we adapt," Mira stated firmly. "We've done it before. When the asteroid impacted Europe in 2078, when the Pacific Plague threatened to wipe out half the population in 2103, humanity adapted and survived." "This is different," argued Minister Chen from the Economic Division. "We're talking about isolation from an entire galactic community. Our economy has become integrated with interstellar trade. Certain resources can be synthesized," interrupted Dr. Sunil Raj, rising from his seat at the far end of the table. The quantum physicist's eyes gleamed with intensity. "I've been analyzing Council technology since first contact. They're advanced, yes, but not as innovative as they believe. Their technological development reached a plateau centuries ago. They perfect what they have, but rarely break new ground." "Dr. Raj, with respect," Mira said, "I've spent 7 years in Council space. Their technology is millennia beyond ours." "In some areas," Raj conceded, "but not in theoretical understanding. Their practical applications are superior, but their conceptual foundations—" He shook his head. "They've stopped asking the fundamental questions. They've become curators rather than creators." The room fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. "Are you suggesting," General Santos asked slowly, "that we could surpass them?" "I'm suggesting," Raj replied, "that isolation might be the catalyst humanity needs." Mira found herself remembering her brother's face, his excitement when he'd been selected for the first contact mission. "This changes everything, Mira," he'd said. "Humanity won't be alone anymore." Now they would be alone again, but perhaps not helpless. "We have 30 days," she announced, her diplomat's voice returning with new resolve. "Let's use them well. Dr. Kojima, I want comprehensive analysis of all research we can legally retain post-separation. Captain Reyes, secure our frontier bases. We may need to abandon some outposts. But Mars and Titan must be fortified. Minister Chen, prepare our economy for radical restructuring." She turned to face the window, looking out at the rebuilt skyline of New Geneva, Earth's capital since the climate wars had reshaped the continents. "The Council has made their decision," she said softly. "Now we make ours." 5 years later, Captain Arjun Reyes stood on the bridge of the ESV Pioneer, humanity's first vessel, powered by the revolutionary dark matter resonance drive. The view screen showed nothing but stars. They had left the Sol system behind 3 days ago, traveling at speeds that would have seemed impossible before the expulsion. "Status report," he commanded, eyes fixed on the navigation display. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied his first officer, Commander Lin. "Resonance drive operating at 93% efficiency. We're outpacing the theoretical maximum of Council vessels by a factor of 3. Reyes nodded, allowing himself a small smile. 5 years of isolation had forced humanity to innovate or perish. Dr. Kojima's breakthrough in dark matter physics had come just 18 months after the expulsion, followed by Dr. Raj's quantum shield technology. Combined with desperate ingenuity and resources redirected from military applications to pure research, humanity had compressed a century of scientific advancement into half a decade. "Approaching the Proxima Centauri checkpoint," announced the navigator. "Council beacons detected." "Maintain course," Reyes ordered. "Let them see us." This was more than a test flight. It was a statement. The Council had established checkpoints at the edge of the Sol system, ostensibly to monitor human activity. In reality, to contain it. The Pioneer was about to demonstrate just how unsuccessful that containment had been. "Council vessel altering course to intercept," reported the tactical officer. "They're powering weapon systems." "Shields at full," Reyes commanded calmly. "No evasive action. Broadcast our identification on all frequencies." The view screen shifted to show a sleek, predatory vessel of Zahirian design approaching rapidly. A communication request flashed across the console. "On screen," Reyes said, straightening his uniform. The face that appeared was Zahirian, compound eyes and mandibles expressing what Reyes had learned to recognize as shock. "Human vessel," the alien commander clicked. Translator, converting to standard. "You have violated Council Containment Directive 447B. Return to Sol system immediately or face disablement." "This is Captain Arjun Reyes of the Earth Exploration Vessel, Pioneer." Reyes responded formally. "We are conducting a peaceful navigation exercise in neutral space. Council Directive 447B restricts human military vessels. The Pioneer is a scientific vessel." "Your vessel exceeds allowed technological parameters," the Zahirian insisted. "Final warning. Reverse course or we will fire." Reyes glanced at his tactical officer, who nodded subtly. The quantum shields were ready. "We will not reverse course," Reyes stated firmly. "We claim the right of peaceful passage through neutral space, as recognized by galactic statutes." The Zahirian commander's mandibles clacked in agitation. "Targeting solutions acquired," he announced. "Firing." The bridge crew remained steady, as energy torpedoes streaked toward the Pioneer. There was a momentary flare of light as the quantum shields activated, absorbing and dispersing the attack energy. "No damage," reported the tactical officer, unable to keep a note of pride from her voice. "Shields at 97%. The Zahirian commander's compound eyes widened. "Impossible," he chittered. "Preparing second volley." "I wouldn't advise that," Reyes interrupted. "Our shields can absorb and redirect energy. A second attack would only provide us with more power." This wasn't entirely accurate. The redirection technology was still theoretical, but the bluff was worth attempting. The Zahirian hesitated, then gestured to someone off-screen. "Human vessel. Remain in position while we consult council authorities." The screen went dark. "They're sending encrypted transmissions to the nearest council outpost," reported the communications officer. "Quantum interference patterns suggest high-priority alerts." Reyes smiled grimly. "Good. Message received. Then." He turned to his first officer. "Commander Lin, plot a course back to Sol. We've made our point." "Sir?" Lin looked puzzled. "We could easily continue. Their weapons are ineffective against our shields." "This wasn't about breaking through," Reyes explained. "It was about showing them what we can do, then respecting the boundaries, for now." He looked at the retreating Zahirian vessel on the screen. "They expected us to either cower in our system or launch a foolish attack. We did neither. We demonstrated technological superiority and restraint." He returned to his captain's chair, feeling the subtle vibration of the dark matter drive through the deck plating. Ambassador Voss was right. This isn't about revenge. It's about earning respect. As the Pioneer gracefully turned and accelerated beyond the Zahirian vessel's detection capabilities, Reyes knew that reports of this encounter would spread throughout Council space. Humanity had been contained, but not constrained. They had been challenged, but not conquered. And they were just getting started. 3 years after the Pioneer's demonstration, humanity faced its first significant test. A supply convoy traveling between Mars and the newly established mining operations in the asteroid belt detected multiple unidentified vessels approaching at high velocity. Mira Voss, now serving as Earth's Strategic Director of Extraterrestrial Affairs, received the alert in her office overlooking the rebuilt Vancouver coastline. "Identification confirmed," her assistant reported grimly. "Dramor raiders, 6 warships, Hunter class." Mira's blood ran cold. The Dramor were notorious even among Council species, a warrior culture that operated on the fringes of galactic society, tolerated for their occasional usefulness as mercenaries, but feared for their brutality. "Closest defensive assets?" she demanded, already moving toward the emergency transport pad. "The ESV Sentinel is patrolling the Mars perimeter, but it's a light cruiser. The convoy has minimal defensive capabilities, mostly automated systems." Mira activated the secure channel to Captain Reyes, who had been promoted to fleet commander after the Pioneer mission. "Arjun, we have a situation. Dramor raiders targeting the Ceres convoy." Reyes's face appeared on the holographic display, his expression grim. "I'm seeing the data now. The Sentinel can't handle 6 Hunter-class vessels alone." "The Defiant is equipped with the prototype quantum shields," Mira said. "How quickly can it reach the convoy?" 20 minutes at maximum resonance," Reyes calculated. "If the convoy alters course toward Phobos Station." "They've got 30 families aboard, including children," Mira cut in. "Colonists for the Ceres Habitation Project." Reyes' expression hardened. "Understood. Defiant is deploying now. I'm taking command personally." The next 20 minutes were the longest of Mira's life, since the day she'd lost her brother. The tactical display showed the Dramor vessels closing in on the convoy, which had initiated evasive protocols, but couldn't hope to outrun the raiders' ships. Then, just as the first Dramor vessel came within weapons range of the lead transport, a flash of light announced the arrival of the Defiant, sleek, powerful, and positioning itself directly between the convoy and the attackers. "Channel open to Dramor flagship," announced the communications officer at Strategic Command. "This is Captain Arjun Reyes of the Earth security vessel Defiant." Reyes's voice rang clear through the command center. "The convoy under our protection carries civilian families. Withdraw immediately." The response came in the form of concentrated weapons fire from all 6 Dramor vessels simultaneously. Mira held her breath, watching the energy signatures on the tactical display spike to levels that would have vaporized any Council vessel of similar size. The Defiant remained intact, its quantum shields glowing with absorbed energy. "Shield status?" demanded Mira. "Holding at 82%, reported the tactical officer. The Defiant is repositioning." On the main screen, Mira watched as Reyes executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for a vessel of the Defiant's size. It accelerated directly toward the lead Dromore ship, shields flaring as they deflected continuous fire. "What is he doing?" someone whispered behind her. Mira knew. "He's showing them that we're not afraid." The Defiant swept past the Dromore formation, drawing their fire away from the convoy, which was now accelerating toward Mars. Then, in a move that left even the experienced tactical officers gasping, the Earth vessel released a controlled burst from its quantum shields, redirecting the absorbed energy in a precise wave that disabled the weapon systems of 2 Dromore ships without destroying them. "Redirection technology," Mira breathed. "They've perfected it." The remaining Dromore vessels regrouped, clearly reassessing their strategy. After a tense moment, they broke formation, not to attack, but to retreat, collecting their disabled companions before vanishing into faster-than-light travel. The command center erupted in cheers. But Mira remained silent, her eyes fixed on the display. This wasn't just a victory, it was a turning point. For the first time, a non-Council species had not only repelled Dromore raiders, but had done so while protecting civilian lives and demonstrating mercy toward the attackers themselves. "Convoy secured," Reyes reported, his image reappearing on the command screen. "No casualties. Minimal damage to the lead transport's communication array." "Well done, Captain," Mira replied formally, aware of the many eyes upon her. "The Council?" "Already requesting information about the incident," Reyes confirmed with a slight smile. "Apparently, the Dromore have filed a formal complaint about our unauthorized advanced weaponry." Mira couldn't help but laugh at the irony. "Let them complain. Every species in the quadrant will hear about this by tomorrow." Later, in the privacy of her office, she reviewed the full tactical data from the encounter. The Defiant's performance had exceeded all projections. Humanity's technological development was accelerating at a pace that even their most optimistic scientists hadn't predicted. But as she studied the footage of the Dromore retreat, a troubling thought surfaced. The attack had been too deliberate, too focused. The raiders had bypassed easier targets to specifically engage a human convoy. "Computer, analyze Dromore attack pattern against historical data," she commanded. "Analysis complete," the AI responded moments later. "Tactical approach shows 94% correlation with commissioned operations rather than opportunistic raiding." Mira's suspicions hardened into certainty. "Someone hired them to test our defenses." She activated her secure communication link to Dr. Kojima, who had established a cutting-edge research facility on Titan. "Elias, we need to accelerate the temporal shield project," she said, without preamble when his face appeared on the screen. "I believe we're being assessed for a larger confrontation." Kojima's expression was grave. "The theoretical framework is sound, but practical application is still months away. We're manipulating the fabric of space-time itself." "Mira, one miscalculation—" "I understand the risks," she interrupted. "But I'm looking at evidence that suggests the Dromore attack was commissioned, possibly by Council factions." Kojima was silent for a moment, his brilliant mind visibly processing implications. "You think they're preparing for military action against Earth?" "I think they're frightened by how quickly we've advanced without them," Mira replied. "And frightened people rarely make wise decisions." She looked out her window at the lights of Vancouver, at the ordinary humans going about their lives, unaware of the cosmic forces gathering around their species. "We have to be ready, Elias. Not just to defend ourselves, but to demonstrate that humanity's path isn't a threat to galactic stability." "Unless they force it to be," Kojima said softly. Mira had no answer for that. The memory of her brother's destroyed ship flashed through her mind, the first casualty of fear masquerading as caution. She would not allow humanity to suffer the same fate on a larger scale. Double the research team, she decided. Full resources at your disposal. I'll handle the political implications. After ending the call, she sat alone in her office, the weight of 7 billion lives pressing down upon her shoulders. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but for the first time since the expulsion, she felt a strange sense of clarity. Humanity had been cast out, forced to rely on its own ingenuity and resilience. Now, those very qualities were transforming them into something the Council had never anticipated. Not a defeated subordinate, but an emerging power. And if conflict came, they would be ready. In the 8 years since humanity's expulsion from the Galactic Council, Mira Voss had learned that diplomacy required more than words. Sometimes, it required action that established new realities, which was why she now stood in a secure facility beneath the Titan research station, authorizing a mission that technically violated Council isolation protocols. The Moranth have agreed to serve as intermediaries, explained Commander Zara Kaney, the officer selected to lead what they were calling knowledge relay missions. Their crystalline biology makes them ideal for data transmission without conventional technology. And they're willing to risk Council censure? Mira asked, studying the holographic display of planned contact points. The Moranth value knowledge above politics, interjected Dr. Kojima, who had developed the specialized data crystals that would be exchanged. They've already begun disseminating our theoretical papers on quantum resonance through their academic networks. Mira nodded slowly. When Council spies had leaked human research patents to rival factions, she had initially been furious. But that fury had quickly transformed into strategic thinking. If their research was going to spread regardless, why not control the narrative? The Vorin representatives are more cautious, continued Commander Kaney, but they've agreed to meet in the shadow of Enceladus. Their shape-shifting abilities make detection nearly impossible. And what do they want in exchange? Mira asked, knowing that nothing in galactic politics came without cost. Protection, Kaney replied simply. The Vorin homeworld lies close to Dramor territory. They've suffered raids for generations. So we're forming alliances, Mira mused. Not officially, of course. Cultural exchange programs, Dr. Kojima suggested with a slight smile. Educational initiatives, just happening to include defensive technologies, added Kaney. Mira considered the implications. The Council had expelled humanity, expecting isolation to weaken them. Instead, it had forced them to become more self-sufficient, more innovative, and now, ironically, more connected with individual species who chafed under Council restrictions. Proceed with the operation, she decided. But remember our core principle. We demonstrate strength through protection, not aggression. These exchanges must benefit all parties involved. As Commander Kaney left to prepare her team, Dr. Kojima lingered, his expression troubled. Something's bothering you, Elias, Mira observed. The Temporal Shield Project, he said quietly. We've achieved successful field generation in the laboratory. Small scale, but stable. Mira's eyes widened. That's months ahead of schedule. That's wonderful news. It's also terrifying, Kojima admitted. We're talking about technology that can selectively alter the flow of time within a defined field. The implications for defense are obvious. We can essentially freeze attacking vessels in place. But the potential for misuse is why we're developing strict ethical protocols alongside the technology. Mira finished for him. This isn't about domination, Elias. It's about creating a situation where conflict becomes so disadvantageous that peace becomes the only logical choice. Kojima nodded slowly. The first temporal-class vessel is already under construction in the Europa shipyards, the ESV Kronos. A fitting name, Mira commented. The god of time. Let's hope we're wise enough to wield time responsibly, Kojima replied. The colonists of Eden's Gate had named their world optimistically, the fourth planet of the Tau Ceti system. It had required significant terraforming to support human life, but the results had been worth the effort. Fields of genetically modified wheat now swayed under twin moons, and the first generation of children born off Earth played in carefully designed parks where the gravity was artificially adjusted to match Earth's. Captain Arjun Reyes had visited the colony 6 months earlier and had been struck by the determination of its 5,000 inhabitants. They knew they were on the frontier, vulnerable yet vital to humanity's expansion. They had built their lives on the belief that the species' future lay among the stars, not confined to a single system. Now, as the tactical display showed 2,000 Dromore warships descending on Eden's Gate, Reyes feared that belief would cost them everything. "Evacuation status?" he demanded, standing on the bridge of the ESV Defender, the most powerful conventional warship in Earth's growing fleet. 20% complete, reported his tactical officer grimly. At current rates, we can extract another 30% before the Dromore fleet arrives. The colony's shields will buy us some time, but against this many vessels. Reyes studied the tactical situation. The Defender and its escort of 6 frigates were hopelessly outnumbered. Even with their advanced shields and weaponry, they couldn't hope to repel 2,000 warships. This wasn't a raid. It was an invasion force. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted. "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Director Voss is authorizing deployment of the Kronos." A hushed silence fell over the bridge. Everyone had heard rumors about the Temporal-class vessel, but few believed it was operational. "Estimated arrival time?" Reyes asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "That's just it, sir," the officer replied, looking up from her console in disbelief. "It's already here." The main view screen shifted to show a vessel unlike any Reyes had ever seen. Sleek and dark. It seemed to shimmer slightly, as if not quite solid. It had appeared without warning between the colony and the approaching Dromore fleet. "How?" Reyes began, but the question died on his lips as realization dawned. Temporal displacement. They didn't just travel here. They altered their position in time. "Sir, the Kronos is hailing the Dromore fleet on all frequencies," reported the communications officer. "They're also transmitting to us, audio only." "Put it through," Reyes ordered. "This is Commander Zara Caney of the Earth temporal vessel, Kronos," came a calm, authoritative voice. "To the approaching Dromore fleet, we have activated a localized temporal field. Your vessels are now experiencing time at 1/10,000th normal progression. This is not an attack, but a demonstration. We are now installing translation modules and educational archives on your primary systems. When we deactivate the field, you will find comprehensive information about humanity's defensive capabilities and ethical protocols." Reyes stared at the screen in astonishment. The massive Dromore fleet appeared frozen in space, caught in mid-approach. "The temporal field is selective," Caney's voice continued. "Your life support and essential systems remain in normal time flow. Your crews are unharmed. We have included formal invitations for diplomatic relations and trade agreements in your archives. The choice to engage peacefully will be yours when time resumes normal flow for your vessels." There was a pause. Then, "Captain Reyes, this is Commander Caney. The Defender is requested to continue evacuation operations for colonists who wish to return to the Sol system. The Kronos will maintain position until the situation is resolved." "Acknowledged, Commander," Reyes responded, still processing what he was witnessing. "May I ask, is this technology as effective as it appears?" "More so," came Kane's measured reply. "But Director Voss was explicit in her orders. We demonstrate capability without causing harm. The goal is deterrence through knowledge, not fear." Hours later, when the last evacuation shuttle had departed and the Defender prepared to escort the civilian ships back to Sol, Reyes watched as the Kronos deactivated its temporal field. The Dramor fleet remained motionless for several long moments. Then, in perfect unison, they turned and departed, not in retreat, but in what could only be described as respectful withdrawal. "No shots fired," murmured his first officer in amazement. "Not a single life lost." Reyes nodded slowly. "Send a message to Director Voss. Tell her that her brother would be proud." As the Defender set course for home, Reyes knew that reports of this encounter would spread throughout the galaxy, with a speed that even temporal technology couldn't match. The Galactic Council would be convening an emergency session by now, trying to comprehend how the isolated humans had developed technology that rewrote the fundamental laws of physics as understood by even the oldest Council species. What they couldn't understand, was that humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology. It had been its capacity for both innovation and compassion, its ability to demonstrate power without surrendering to its corrupting influence. Eden's Gate would remain a human colony, but it had become something more today, the site of humanity's true emergence as a galactic power. The Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 27 species shouted over one another. Holographic displays flickered with tactical analyses. And at the center of it all, Chancellor Calterin struggled to maintain order. "The reports are confirmed," announced the Myrinth representative, its crystalline form pulsing with agitation. The human vessel manipulated temporal mechanics on a scale previously thought impossible. 2,000 Dramor warships were effectively immobilized without harm. "Without harm?" scoffed a Zahirian counselor. "They violated the mental autonomy of the Dramor by installing unauthorized data in their systems." "Educational materials," corrected the Vorin delegate, its amorphous form rippling. "Including invitations for peaceful relations. My species has reviewed the transmitted content. There were no hidden commands, no subterfuge." Chancellor Kelterin's compound eyes narrowed. "The humans have violated the terms of their isolation." "Which we imposed upon them unjustly," interrupted a new voice. All eyes turned to Vectul, the former human liaison, who had rarely spoken in council sessions since the expulsion. "We feared their adaptability, their capacity to integrate diverse technologies. We punished them for learning too quickly, and in doing so, we removed all constraints on their development." Silence fell across the chamber as the implications of his words sank in. "The humans now possess technology beyond our understanding," Vectul continued quietly. "Yet they use it with restraint. At Eden's Gate, they could have destroyed the Dramor fleet. Instead, they demonstrated capability while preserving life." "What would you have us do?" demanded Kelterin. "Surrender to these upstarts?" "I would have us recognize reality," Vectul replied. 7 of our member species have already established direct diplomatic relations with Earth, bypassing Council protocols. 3 more have formally petitioned to do the same. The humans are no longer isolated. They are becoming central to a new galactic order, one based on mutual benefit rather than hierarchical control. As the debate raged on, a communication officer approached Chancellor Calterin with visible trepidation. "Excellency, we're receiving a transmission from a human vessel. It's requesting permission to approach Council space." Calterin's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Identify the vessel!" The officer hesitated. It's the Kronos, Excellency." The chamber fell silent once more. "Put it through," Calterin commanded, his voice betraying a hint of fear for the first time in his long political career. The central holographic display activated, revealing the face of Commander Zara Kaney. Behind her stood a figure that many in the chamber recognized, Mira Voss, the human diplomat who had stood before them 8 years earlier, pleading for acceptance. "Greetings, Chancellor," Kaney began formally. "The Earth vessel, Kronos, requests permission to enter Council space for the purpose of diplomatic engagement." Calterin drew himself up to his full height, Human vessels are prohibited from— Chancellor, Mira interrupted, stepping forward. We both know that prohibition is no longer enforceable. I come not to threaten but to offer terms for a new relationship between humanity and the Galactic Council. Terms? Kalturin's voice was incredulous. You presume to dictate terms to this council. I presume to propose a peaceful path forward, Mira corrected gently. One that benefits all species, including yours. She held up a data crystal, one of Dr. Kojima's designs. This contains our proposal: recognition of human sovereignty, restoration of trade and travel rights, appropriate reparations for the unjust expulsion, and acknowledgement of humanity's right to continue expansion and development without interference. And if we refuse? Asked Kalturin, though the answer was evident to everyone present. Then we will proceed without council approval, Mira replied simply. As 7 of your member species have already chosen to do, the old order is changing, Chancellor. You can be part of shaping its successor, or you can be left behind by it. The debate that followed lasted 3 full cycles. Species that had been silent partners in council affairs for centuries found their voices. Alliances that had stood for millennia fractured and reformed. And through it all, the Chronos waited at the edge of council space, a silent reminder of humanity's newfound power and its restrained application. In the end, the council voted 14-13 to accept the human terms. Chancellor Kalturin, finding himself suddenly in the minority, resigned his position immediately afterward. In his place, the council selected Vektul, the former human liaison who had advocated for understanding rather than fear. As the formal documents were prepared, Mira stood alone in a private chamber, looking out at the stars. She had achieved what once seemed impossible: humanity's recognition, not as supplicants, but as equals, perhaps even as leaders in this new galactic arrangement. Yet victory brought its own challenges. How would humanity wield its growing influence? How would they balance expansion with ethics, power with restraint? Her reflections were interrupted by the arrival of Commander Caney. The Council has ratified the agreement, Caney reported. Earth's isolation is officially ended. Mira nodded, still gazing at the stars. And a new era begins. You don't seem as pleased as I expected, Caney observed carefully. I was thinking about my brother, Mira admitted. About first contact, and how differently things might have gone if fear hadn't guided those initial interactions. She turned to face the commander. We've won recognition through strength, Zara, but our true test comes next. Can we lead through wisdom? Can we build something better than what came before? Caney considered this. The temporal technology alone gives us tremendous advantage. We could dominate, Mira finished for her. But that's not who we are, or at least, not who we should strive to be. She smiled slightly. My brother used to say that the measure of a civilization isn't how it treats its equals, but how it treats those with less power. A philosophy worth carrying to the stars, Caney agreed, as they prepared to return to the Chronos. Mira took one last look at the council chamber through the viewport. For 7 years, she had worked toward this moment, driven by the memory of her brother's sacrifice and the belief that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Now, they had earned that place, not through begging for acceptance, but by becoming too significant to ignore. The path ahead would not be easy, but it would be theirs to determine. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all. 25 years later, the observation deck of Lunar Station Freedom was filled to capacity. Dignitaries from 47 species mingled beneath the transparent dome, their diverse biologies accommodated by environmental fields and translation devices. Above them, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the blackness of space, while shuttles and ships of various designs moved in carefully choreographed patterns between the planet and its satellite. Federation Consul Mira Voss stood at the edge of the gathering, her once dark hair now streaked with silver. her diplomatic uniform bearing the insignia of human leadership. Beside her, Dr. Elias Kojima leaned on a cane, his brilliant mind still sharp despite his advancing years. 25 years, he mused, watching the celebration. Sometimes I can hardly believe what we've accomplished. Mira nodded, her eyes drawn to the holographic displays showing human outposts and colonies spread across 200 star systems. The expulsion that had been intended to contain humanity had instead catalyzed an unprecedented expansion. The temporal network alone has transformed galactic travel, Kojima continued. And the shared research initiatives with the Myranth have produced medical advances that benefit a dozen species. And yet some in the Council still view us with suspicion, Mira noted. Old habits, Kojima shrugged. But even they can't deny the statistical evidence. Piracy down 60% in human-patrolled sectors. Medical care extended to formerly neglected systems. Educational exchanges promoting cross-species understanding. Mira was about to respond when a subtle shift in the room's energy caught her attention. Conversations quieted as attention turned toward the main entrance, where a delegation unlike any seen before on the station had arrived. "Meridian representatives," whispered an aide, approaching Mira with barely contained excitement. The advance party arrived through the gateway an hour ago. These are their senior diplomats. Mira straightened, instinctively adopting the formal posture that had served her through countless first contacts. The Meridian Collective of Andromeda, a coalition of species from the neighboring galaxy, had established communication with humanity just 3 years earlier. This meeting represented the culmination of careful diplomatic exchanges conducted across an intergalactic bridge created by humanity's most advanced temporal technology. The Meridian delegates moved through the crowd with graceful, flowing movements. Their bodies seemed composed of light, contained within translucent membranes, pulsing with colors that human linguists had determined represented emotional states. Leading them was a being that had identified itself as Harmony of Disparate Voices, the collective's equivalent of a diplomatic corps director. Consul Voss, it greeted her, its translated voice resonating with harmonic overtones. The journey between galaxies is long, even with your remarkable temporal technology, but worth undertaking to meet the species that bridges worlds. Mira bowed in the manner the Meridian Communications had indicated was respectful. Welcome to Luna, and to the Milky Way. Your presence honors us, and marks a historic moment for both our galaxies. As formal introductions continued, Mira found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. From the tragic first contact that had claimed her brother's life, through the harsh years of isolation, to the technological renaissance that had transformed not just human society, but galactic power structures themselves. The Galactic Council still existed, but it had been reformed, largely due to human influence, into a more equitable body, where innovation was valued alongside tradition. The Zahirians, once humanity's strongest opponents, had eventually become pragmatic trading partners. Even the Dramor, after the demonstration at Eden's Gate, had gradually shifted from raiders to mercenary protectors of vulnerable colonies. Later, as the formal reception transitioned to more substantive discussions, Mira and the Meridian delegation moved to a conference room where the walls came alive with holographic displays of both galaxies. Plans for cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, and even joint exploration of the intergalactic void were proposed and refined. Your species fascinates us, Harmony of Disparate Voices commented during a brief recess. In our galaxy, civilizations typically require millennia to achieve what you have accomplished in decades. We had a unique catalyst, Mira admitted. Isolation forced us to innovate or perish. Yet, many species, when developing rapidly, turned toward domination. The Meridian representative observed, "Your history suggests humans have capacity for both creation and destruction." What guided your choices? Mira considered the question carefully. Perhaps it was memory, she finally said. We remembered how it felt to be vulnerable, to be judged as lesser. When we gained power, enough of us wanted to wield it differently than those who had wielded power over us. The meridian's colors shifted to a pattern that the translation matrix interpreted as thoughtful appreciation. This principle may serve as foundation for our alliance, it suggested. Power tempered by empathy, strength defined by how it uplifts, rather than how it controls. As the conference continued into the lunar night, with Earth rising once more over the horizon, Mira found herself standing beside a window with Dr. Kojima. Did you ever imagine this? She asked quietly. When we were expelled, when we were struggling just to maintain our colonies in Sol System, did you imagine we would one day be hosting representatives from another galaxy? Kojima smiled, his eyes reflecting the blue light of Earth. Science taught me to imagine possibilities, he replied. But it was humanity's spirit that turned those possibilities into reality. He gestured toward the conference table, where humans worked alongside beings from across two galaxies, their differences evident, but their common purpose binding them together. Your brother would be proud, he added softly, not just of what we've built, but of how we built it. Mira nodded, feeling the familiar ache of loss that had never fully disappeared, even after all these years. Yet alongside it was something else, a profound sense of fulfillment. Humanity had not merely survived its expulsion from galactic society, it had transcended it, creating something more inclusive, more innovative, and ultimately more enduring than what had come before. As she rejoined the conference, Mira carried with her the knowledge that the greatest victories were not won through domination, but through transformation. The Council had cast humanity out, expecting isolation to weaken them. Instead, it had revealed their greatest strength, the ability to forge new paths when old ones were closed, to build bridges where others saw only voids. And now, those bridges stretched not just between stars, but between galaxies, a testament to what was possible when power was guided by principles, when strength was measured not by conquest, but by creation. The universe, with all its vastness and mystery, had never seemed more full of promise.